Hello, hello. It's me, Arden Lee. I am back with another video, and today I want to talk about how to be a happier person. First, if you've not yet done so already, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit that button. Like the videos if you like them, and let me know in the comments how they're hitting you. Let me know what you're feeling about it, what it's bringing up for you, if it's helpful. Let me know what would be helpful. Let me know what you guys want to hear about. I would love to tackle some of the problems you're going through. So tell me about it. Leave me a comment. Tell me what issues you're facing, and we will tackle them together. All right, so in this video, I want to talk about how to be a happier person. This is a big journey that I have been on in the past couple of years. I finally decided that happiness was something that I wanted to crack, that I had spent too long being in pain, too many years of my life dealing with pain and trauma, and I wanted to turn things around and I wanted to change it. And wow, I managed to do that. It's pretty cool. And now I'm really excited to teach it to other people as well. So there's a few things that we need to understand about happiness. First is that it's kind of our human condition right now to put our happiness on external things. There's really no surprise about that because it's kind of the way that it's marketed to us. It's kind of the way that we live in a capitalist consumerist society. And from literally the day we're born into a world where we're subjected to advertisements all the time telling us, like, buy this and be happy, and buy that and be happy. You're not good enough as you are, so buy this lipstick, right? Buy this car because this car is going to do XYZ for you, right? Every advertisement we look at is appealing to our emotions in some way or another, and it's saying if you buy our product, it will somehow make you feel better, right? If you sign up for our insurance, you'll feel better because you saved money, and you'll feel safer because you'll know that your car and your home are insured against accidents, right? Whatever someone is selling to you is aimed to be sold to you to fill an emotional gap, and so often that's in our happiness. So we get kind of trained as we're growing up to believe that our happiness is going to come when we have these externals, when we have these things in our lives, when we reach those milestones. And I was depressed as a teenager. I was depressed from when it really started to sink in. I was depressed from a pretty young age because I was dealing with abuse, but I feel like age 16 is really when it anchored into my body, and I could sort of explain it because I was like, this sucks. I'm 16. I'm going to school for things that I'll probably never use. I don't have the freedom to do the creative projects that I want to do right now in my life, and and I'm subject to a custody schedule. I don't have my freedom, and so sure enough, I was like, well, when I'm an adult, then I'll be happy and whatever. And sure enough, I reached adulthood, and I went to college. I graduated college, and all of a sudden it was, well, when I have enough money, when I have a boyfriend, when I have an apartment that I like, and what was really scary to me was in my mid-20s, I achieved all of those things. I had a nice apartment. I had a boyfriend who was abusive to me, although I didn't know it at the time until it got super obvious. and and I had a job, and I had money. I had a comfortable savings account, and I could pay off my credit card every month. And I was still depressed. I was at possibly during those times some of the most depressed that I've ever been, because I was also undergoing a lot of trauma and a lot of abuse that I didn't understand. So that scared me when I reached those milestones, and all of a sudden that hadn't fixed everything. And so, over the course of the next several years, I tried all sorts of different things. Those didn't all work either necessarily. I was sort of doing the same things but more. Well, when I have a book published, then I'll be successful, and people will respect me, and they'll start treating me better. And that didn't work either. So there were plenty of things that I tried. And what I ultimately learned about happiness is that it's a constant choice. It's a constant choice in the face of whatever circumstances you're facing. Although certainly there are many economic comforts and many benefits of privilege that make our lives more comfortable for us. But But what we've learned is that, adjusting for whatever city you live in, the cost of living in the city you live in, what we found out statistically is that our happiness diminishes, right? Right? We reach the law of diminishing returns after our income hits about 75,000 a year. So I know for a lot of people that's a lot. Certainly with your growth mindset, though, you can also learn how to change your income. You can learn how to create more abundance in your life as well. But after you reach that $75,000 a year, you're not going to get much happier just because you're making 100,000 or 200,000, or 500,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your happiness levels, according to statistics, are going to pretty much stay the same. So certainly finding that comfort level might be important, but from there, where do you go? From that point where you have your baseline self-sufficiency, when you have that much established, then being happy becomes about this choice to engage with the things that create those feelings within you. And it's not always what we think. We have this thing called impact bias, and it's something that Dan Harmon, I want to say it's Dan Harmon. I want to say it's Dan Harmon who talks about it in his TED Talk on becoming happier. Impact bias essentially says that, it's that same thing. If I have this, then I will be happier. If I have that, then I will be happier. And what he has discovered with some of his research that he presented was that overwhelmingly, our happiness levels are actually not controlled by our external factors nearly as much as we think that they are. For example, there were lottery winners and paraplegics who were interviewed a year after they had either won the lottery or become a paraplegic. And you would think that they would have started here and gone about here, right? Okay, you won the lottery, someone became a paraplegic. But actually, their happiness levels, like after a year, were really not all that different from where they started off. So essentially, happiness is, as I've come to understand it, it is a way of curating your experience in the moment to choose environments and places and people that make you happy, to get rid of those things that are not in alignment with you to the best of your ability, and to understand that when you're in the midst of something, even if you're in the midst of a problem, if you're in the muck of some trauma, you might not be happy all the time, but to understand that resiliency, to understand and have confidence in your own ability to make choices for yourself that are going to curate that happiness again. And it becomes like a groove. It becomes like a pattern in your mind, right? Our brains set up patterns based on our responses to external stimuli. And if we're constantly choosing that path of like, this always happens to me, people are terrible, the world sucks, etc. And I've been there. I definitely was making those choices unconsciously for a long time throughout my life because that's all that I knew. But when I started to actually consciously think, okay, who do I have around me that I care about, who cares about me, who makes me feel good? Who are the people that I can rely on, that I can trust to be there for me? What are the environments that make me feel better, where I feel welcome, where I feel safe? What are the, what are the things that I could do that affect my state in the immediate way that I'm going to actually feel better? A great example of this and of impact bias in itself is getting up and going to the gym. I don't actually even go to the gym, so I'm I'm probably a terrible person. I mean, I work out, but I have other things that I do. I'm probably a terrible proponent for that. But when I was living in New York and I was taking parkour classes in Krav Maga, the last thing I wanted to do on a Sunday morning was have my alarm go off at 8 a.m. and say, all right, I'm going to drag myself down to the Krav Maga studio to do like 3 hours of classes in a row. I wanted so badly to hit that snooze button. I wanted so badly to get back to sleep. But what I noticed was that when I went and actually did the class and I kind of, had enough willpower to get over myself and actually get there and move, I felt amazing for the rest of the day. I was like, wow, I feel great. I just did that. I can take on the world. I have so much energy. I feel competent. I feel capable. I feel strong. I feel connected to my body. And I would go home and shower, and the rest of the day I would spend in such a better state than if I were, than if I had slept in. Another thing I noticed when I moved to Los Angeles is I was like, wow, I really love going to classes at the Green Man in North Hollywood. It was somewhere I went for a while to learn a little bit about, occultism, because that interested me. It engaged my mind. It stretched me. It expanded my consciousness. It expanded my idea, my understanding of the world and how everything worked. And I noticed, even in the midst of, let's say, having anxiety over, crushes, over unreciprocated affection or whatever, what's going to go on with this person or that person, having all this anxiety about my interpersonal relationships, I noticed that going to these classes actually made me feel better because it put my mind on something else, and I felt productive, and I felt I felt like a greater sense of peace. I felt a sense of accomplishment. So I started noticing, where do I go and what do I do that actually makes me feel that way? Who are the people that I have around me who make me feel that way? And I started curating my life to the best of my ability in order to choose realities that were contributing to my happiness levels. And they weren't always what I thought they were. Sure, I could say that I'm happy when I'm going out with someone that I have a crush on, but if that person is being inconsistent and not showing up for me, they're actually causing more, unhappiness overall than they're causing happiness. Only I keep seeking that out because it's like a fix, right? You keep seeking that fix that we think is going to solve things for us outside ourselves, when really it's all about us, and it's about curating our environments and choosing those paths that make us happy. And just in the same way that we can choose those external realities that contribute to our happiness, we can also control, to an extent, we can control our inner state by making those choices over and over again and kind of programming our minds to look for that, to look for reasons to be happy. We talk about gratitude practices a lot. If you guys haven't already watched my video that's titled, if you hate the idea of a gratitude practice, watch this video, because I used to hate the idea of a gratitude practice because it felt so like, oh, just be grateful, just shut up and be grateful for what you have, don't complain. And when you're someone who's suffered from a lot of trauma, you probably had that thrown at you as a means of abuse. Like, why are you, whether it was an abusive parent or an abusive ex-boyfriend, look at all I do for you, why are you complaining, you should be grateful, no one else is going to love you the way I love you, or whatever. And whatever it is that they say to you, then you come to associate gratitude with denial of your own pain and your own suffering. So I was so turned off to it for the longest time. But when I realized that a gratitude practice is essentially just about focusing on the things that make you happy so that you can increase that. And I don't use the word gratitude anymore because it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So instead of a gratitude practice, I write love lists. I write things of like lists of just things that I love. I'm like, I love this flavor ice cream. I love, I love like, the things I have in my home, or whatever it is, whatever it is that I feel particularly inspired by on that day. And that trains my brain to focus on happiness. That trains me to look for things that I'm happy for. And what's amazing to me is that over the course of a couple of years of doing this, I've had these amazing results where now I'll walk into a situation and I'll automatically start looking on the bright side of things. A really great question to ask yourselves, you guys, is, as you're going and living your lives, is when things happen, even when shit hits the fan, asking yourselves this question and asking, how is it this possibly unfolding in my favor, right? So I had an incident, a couple of years ago where some people I was working with really kind of turned on me and did me dirty. And I knew that prior to this, when I was in New York, when I was living in so much trauma and depression and didn't know how to deal with it, I know that I would have dealt with this situation by being like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Why does this always happen to me? Why are people so awful? How come people don't treat me the way that I treat them? And just going into all of this personalizing and catastrophizing and seeing it as part of this big overall pattern, which is really kind of a cognitive distortion, which is really not necessarily the truth. But I was so in that groove of betrayal and abandonment and traitorship, that I was unable to see how things might actually be unfolding in my favor. So when it happened to me a couple years ago, that some people I was working pretty closely with turned on me and acted in really a really horrific manner, I asked myself, how is this actually unfolding in my favor? And I said, oh, actually, it allows me to get rid of these people off of this project. It allows me to dodge a bullet, sooner rather than later. And it allows me to have someone else step in and take over this project in a way that's actually way better for me, and that's going to give me a superior result in the long run. Yeah, I lost a couple $100 on some work that the other people had done, and so, but in my mind, it was like it's worth it to me to lose that money to have someone on my team who I know that I can trust to handle the situation. So when that happened, I was like, wow, thank goodness I know, and good riddance. So that's my brain making that choice to say, how is this working out for me? What do I have to be grateful for, or what do I have to love about this situation? Rather than saying, this always happens to me, people are terrible and everyone sucks and I hate the world and I want to die, which was definitely definitely my life at for many years. I was very much stuck in that pattern. And and in all fairness, to my credit, there certainly was a lot of trauma and a lot of betrayal that I was dealing with, but I didn't realize how much I was stuck in only being able to see that because it was so prominent in my life that I kept expecting it everywhere that I went. And now I'm in a place where I really do look for the people that I can love and trust and feel safe with. And if someone shows their true colors to me, then I'm like, great, that's knowledge. And now you can go in that pile over there. And now I know, who is who are my steadfast friends, who are the people that I do want around me, who are the people who love and support me. And I can really focus on that. But again, it's that choice, right? Whatever situation you're in, choosing to go down that road of annoyance and upset, and to stew in it as well. You don't want to repress any upset or anger or emotions that you might feel, but even as you're feeling them, you can understand that you're feeling them with the purpose of getting them out of your system, and so that you can move on and make happier choices and you can be happy again. So you're like, oh, this thing that's making me angry, I can either take it here and find reasons to be more and more angry about it, or I can say, wow, that's making me angry, thank you for that information, I'm now going to deal with this situation and I'm going to get back on track to where I want to be happy, because my brain is starting to get into that groove of making that choice each time. So I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know. And if you have any trouble implementing this, let me know. Let me know what you're facing, and we'll address that in a future video as well. So thank you guys for paying attention, and I'll see you next time.